Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing another video in our series of guides for the Marvel Contest of Champions. Today's featured champ is one of my personal favorites, Gwenpool. She's a cutie, she's a lot crazy, and she's a bleed machine in this game. She really focuses on her bleed. But basically this guide is for newcomers coming into the game, maybe people who have not pulled her yet in the crystals, or just for those players that need a reminder on how she works. Basically the video will focus on her pros, her cons, some of her gameplay, some tips and tricks, and basically my thoughts about the player in general. So let's get to it. I've always thought that Kabam did a pretty good job on Gwenpool. Her animations are really fun, all her special attacks are useful, and she's a very fluid character. She's very easy to play, very easy to intercept, and basically she's a very nice damage dealer as well. So let's get to it by starting off with the first pro. So the first pro we want to look at is her special one, Incineration. Basically it causes energy incineration damage for 14 full seconds. It also bypasses perfect block, and while it's running it gives the opponents a 50% block proficiency reduction. The incineration can also reapply itself if you happen to have bleeds on the opponent. Basically it will consume one bleed and then reinitiate the incineration. Another thing that I like about this attack is most of the time Gwenpool relies on her bleeds. So basically if she goes up against a champ that's bleed immune, it's nice to have another weapon that she can use against these champs. I also find her special one is pretty good at pushing the opponent back a little bit when you get caught against a wall or maybe an opponent that's very aggressive. So it's a nice little bonus, and definitely one that's not her best feature, but very useful. So the next pro that we're going to look at is Gwenpool's Special 2 Power Control. Enervate. Basically when she launches her SP2, which is a football with explosives tied to it, the opponent is unable to gain power as long as you're striking for 6 seconds. It's a pretty cool ability, and it's an ability that you can keep on going forever as long as the opponent happens to not be bleed immune. Basically after the 6 seconds is over, if you have a bleed on the opponent, it will consume one of those bleeds and continue the Enervate. So as you can see here, fighting the Winter Soldier, I continue to hit him and he is unable to gain power. And as long as you can keep your bleeds up, and she does love to bleed, you can keep this power, you can keep them from power gaining for quite a long time. Another thing I want to mention just while we're here is every time that she bleeds, she actually has a 3% chance to stun as well. It's a pretty nice ability. It's a very quick stun, only 0.75 seconds, so you have to be pretty quick. You can extend that with some masteries like Stupefy, but all in all it's just a nice bonus. There's a stun right there. Of course you can only do this on opponents that can bleed. And again, this Enervate with the power control is only from opponents that will bleed. Now the Enervate will work on opponents that do not bleed, but it only lasts 6 seconds, and you can't reinitialize it unless you launch another SP2. So moving on from the Special 2, we'll look at the next pro, which is the Special 3. Gwenpool Special 3 is an armor break. It lasts for 14 full seconds. And it also reduces the opponent's armor by 115%. Much like the other two specials, if the armor break is expiring and you still have bleeds up, it will consume one of those bleeds and continue for another 14 seconds. So as long as you have bleeds on the opponent, you can continue the armor break indefinitely. Another thing about the Special 3 is it doesn't do a huge amount of damage, the actual special, but as her armor break is up, her physical attacks do a lot more damage. I'd probably use it more when you're in the longer fights, because basically you'll be doing SP2 most of the time to power lock your champs. But in the longer fights, as you're fighting with your SP2 and you're gaining power and the opponent isn't, you'll eventually get to SP3, and then you can unleash the SP3. And then you'll have so many bleeds going up, you can basically keep your SP2 and your SP3 going over and over and over and over. So moving on to the next pro, I believe Gwenpool is a good candidate for the Labyrinth of Legends. Probably not in my top 3, but probably in top 5. You'd probably want to bring in a 5-star rank 4 with an attack team, or a 5-star rank 5 if you had them. This is just a 4-star. I don't have a rank 5 that's ranked up to show you for the Labyrinth of Legends. I've seen some videos on her, and she can get the job done. If you're going to bring her in though, I would strongly suggest really focusing on your masteries for attack. Suggestions would be deep wounds, 5 out of 5 if possible, or at least as high as you can get. I'd also focus on glass cannon for extra attack, and I'd also put points into suicides, full suicides. You really want to be able to chop these guys down as fast as possible. Another thing I would suggest is maybe a couple points in courage. Bringing a couple points into willpower. Willpower will help heal up the damage she takes from the suicides. You can consider assassin as well. I'd also might put some points into stupefy so your stuns can last as long as possible. We do know that in this game, in the Labyrinth of Legends, they have a limber ability, so you can't stun them for too long. So the way I'd fight them for most opponents is I would do my SP3 as much as possible. I wouldn't worry about the SP2 so much because eventually they're going to be limber and stun resistant. So I would just do SP3 over and over and over and try to take them down as fast as possible. There's a few exceptions to the rule, like a magic where you might want to try to do your SP2 at the beginning to keep the limbo down. But in reality, you want to bait most of these guys out because they're going to limber out and they're going to be stun resistant. So you don't want to be blocking their ability to gain power. You want them to be able to use their special so you can go in and attack. Of course, you can also intercept as well, but I'd really focus on that SP3 and bringing down the armor and then just chopping. So the next pro I want to talk about is when she's duped. She actually has 2 abilities. The first one, she reduces her opponent's defensive ability accuracy based on her current combo count. That basically means opponents like Spider-Man with his evade, Medusa with her auto block from her furies, or Electro with his static shock. Those are defensive, so she can help reduce the chances of those actually happening. And it goes by 2% per hit. So if I have 20 hits, that's a 40% chance that Spider-Man won't evade. If I have 30 hits, that's a 60% chance. If I have 40 hits, that's an 80% chance. If I have 50 hits, that's 100% chance. That goes as well here with the Medusa. She can't auto block if it falls under my percentage. Right now I have a 20% chance. So you can see in very long fights, you can get up to 100% and they can never do their abilities, which is a very nice bonus. You know, it's not a Black Widow or Electra. But it does go to 100% if you can get up to those 50 hits. You just got to try to get there. So a very nice bonus. So let's move on to the next part of her duped ability. The next part of her duped ability is the ability to not die when she gets hit by a special attack. That can be a special 1, special 2, or special 3. This particular Gwenpool is Sig level 99, so that prevents me from losing more than 65% of my current health per hit from special attacks. I brought in Hyperion here just because we know he's a fast power gain, and I want to show you the SP3 and what he's going to do to me. So here he's going to do 65% damage of my current health, or no more than that. That depends on the character you're fighting. Now I'm going to fight back, and I'm going to go all the way down to 1%, and I'm going to get hit by that SP3 multiple times, and I'm still going to survive. Now, you got to be a little bit aware that champions that have a second part of their special, like let's say that a particular opponent hits you with an SP3, he does damage from the SP3 which you survive, but then there's a bleed or incinerate or a poison after, that can still kill you. Also, if the special stuns you, you'll still be stunned. So you're only taking that initial hit, and you can survive that. Now, Hyperion's SP3 happens to be just pure damage. There's nothing that happens after. There's no poison, there's no stun, there's no bleed, so I can keep on surviving at 1%. Now, if he hit me with his SP1 has incineration, So if he hit me with his SP1 right there, he would have killed me because, yes, I would have survived the initial laser attack, but then the incineration damage after would have killed me out to 1%. So, you know, it's useful sometimes, not all the time. It's not easy to run around at 1%. Maybe in a war, it might save you from losing a kill and gaining some points. Or maybe a special quest, like recently there was a Thanos quest where Gwenpool on the second Thanos wouldn't die, and you could keep on going in and attacking. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going in and attacking after he hits me with the SP1. I know I'll never die, I just can't get hit, like from regular attacks after. So again, a nice bonus. Has to be duped, and it will always work no matter what percentage you're at, so, you know, I wouldn't put a lot of stones into it. I just happen to have 99 because I got her many times through the crystals. So the first con of Gwenpool is probably her block proficiency. It's a little on the low side. Thankfully she has a high crit rate, so she can do a lot of damage. So I guess that kind of balances things out. But you gotta watch taking block damage and taking regular hits because her health will go pretty fast. So the second big con would be the bleed immunity opponents. As we can see from the video, Gwenpool relies on her bleeds quite a lot. So champs like Ultron and Iceman and Vision, or maybe nodes that are bleed resistant, will cause some problems for Gwenpool. She still hits pretty hard because she has a high critical rate, but without her bleed she can't do her stuns, she can't continue her SP2 and SP3 specials through consuming bleeds, and it just makes it a harder fight for her. Yes, you do have your SB1 for the incineration, so sometimes you can use that. I mean, there's still champs that are immune to that as well, like Iceman. But in this scenario here with the Ultron, I just spam my SB1 because I know it does some damage. So just keep it in mind, and we'll move on to the next part. Her third con is she has no immunities and she has no regeneration. That's not a big surprise because in the comic books she has no actual superpowers. She's just very good with swords and guns. So maybe you might consider putting some points into willpower, especially if you're running suicides, just to heal up a little bit. But for the most part, you just got to rely on her skill and try not to get hit. So the last con I want to talk about is sometimes her random stun can be a little bit dangerous. There's two scenarios I want to talk about. The first one is her stun itself is only 0.75 seconds long. Yes, it can be increased with the Mastery Stupefy, but it's still rather short. So when you're fighting an opponent and you see the stun, you just have the tendency to want to run in and attack. And sometimes you're just a little bit too far away. They snap out of the stun and attack you right back. So just keep that in mind when you're attacking. That's closer is better than being far away, and just be careful. The second thing is some opponents have the ability to turn your stun against you. I'm thinking a Mordo or a Black Panther Civil War. So you could be fighting them close up and your 3% kicks in and Mordo is stunned, and then he instantly turns the tables and he stuns you back, and then he just tears you apart. So there's some champs you really got to be careful with. Okay, so that just about sums up the video. I just wanted to say my final thoughts. I believe Gwenpool is a solid character, probably one of the better skill characters. Not top spot, I think Blade still holds #1, at least for now. I do believe Gwenpool is probably one of the better champs in the game, and if you pull her, even if she's not duped, I still think she has a lot to offer. Her duped abilities just give her a couple bonuses. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below. I try to answer pretty much any comment that comes through. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, dislike, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a great day and take care.
Target identified. Analysis complete. Please subscribe.